Welcome, everyone. My name is Mandy Reinig. I'm the director of the Study Away program here at Virginia Wesleyan University. And I'm excited today to welcome everyone to the Critical Language Scholarship Program workshop. And even more excited to have Liz from the program here to talk to you about it, as well as a few student ambassadors that we have. So Liz, welcome, and I will throw it over to you.
Okay, thanks so much for having me. Hi, I'm Liz Clare. I'm the Alumni Engagement Officer for the CLS program. So I'm excited to talk to you all today and answer your questions, of course. And I would invite, kind of before I get started with a little presentation, I would invite our two alumni ambassadors to introduce themselves as well. So Sydney, would you like to chime in?
Hi, my name is Sydney Ward. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Seattle, Washington, and I did the Arabic program with CLS in summer 2019, and I was in Amman, Jordan.
My name is Ramisa Rashed. I am currently a senior at Barnard College studying computer science. And I am an alum of the 2019 CLS program in Korean. And I was in Gwangju, South Korea.
Thank you. So I'll invite them to share some words of wisdom here and there. I'm just going to go through a little bit of an overview about the CLS program and what the scholarship provides, what the program's about, some of the benefits of participating, and some tips for preparing a competitive application. And then, of course, at the end, we will have plenty of time for questions. What is CLS? It's a fully funded summer study abroad program. Supports U.S. students in all fields of study to learn what the U.S. Department of State refers to as critical languages. And critical languages are those that are less commonly taught and studied on U.S. campuses, but that are nonetheless critical to our engagement with the world. So these are languages that are essential to U.S. national security and economic prosperity, and they help prepare students to compete in a globalized workforce. The CLS program offers instruction in 15 different critical languages. 9 of those 15 languages offered by the program don't require previous language study. Students who wish to learn Arabic, Korean, Portuguese, or Russian must complete 1 year of study in that language by the beginning of the program. And students who wish to learn Chinese or Japanese must complete 2 years of prior study before the start of the program. So while many students meet these requirements through formal classes at the college level, you may also substitute other language learning experience for formal classes like self-study, tutoring, high school coursework, or knowledge of the language from your home environment. There is space in the application for you to describe your experience and how it meets the proficiency requirement for the level for which you're applying. So in any case, you just want to have a plan to meet the requirement by the beginning of June when the CLS program starts. So probably the most exciting thing about the CLS program is that it is fully funded by the US government. So this means the program covers domestic travel from each participant's home in the US to Washington, D.C. for a pre-departure orientation, as well as round-trip international travel to the program site. It also covers any applicable visa fees, as well as the cost of tuition, room and board, cultural excursions, and activities that are part of the program in the host country. And then alumni of the program also receive undergraduate credit through Bryn Mawr College, as well as a certified ACTFL OPI test score. OPI stands for Oral Proficiency Interview, and it's the type of language test score that you receive that verifies your language progress. So keep in mind that the CLS program is more than just a funding opportunity. It's an all-inclusive study abroad program that's focused on immersive language learning. So each of our partner institutes hosts up to 30 CLS scholars and facilitates an intensive 8-week program for students that include 20 classroom hours of language instruction each week, cultural activities, local excursions, and 1 or 2 weekend overnight trips. The program is academically challenging, and every aspect is really designed to maximize language gains and immersion in the host culture. Throughout the summer, students agree to speak only in the target language, and most live with host families, and each student is assigned a language partner in addition to be able to practice outside of the classroom in an informal way. So the CLS program is a study abroad program that emphasizes immersive language and cultural learning, but kind of to address, the big question on everybody's minds right now when we're talking about study abroad is we don't know what 2021 holds exactly. So depending on health and safety considerations, it may be necessary to hold some or all of the 2021 CLS for institutes virtually. So in that case, virtual instruction would follow a similar structure, emphasizing use of the language, cultural learning, and building relationships between scholars and the people of the host country. The CLS program is a highly structured program on which students participate as a single cohort. So it's not an independent study, research, or internship program, and students shouldn't expect to have time outside or to pursue outside work or study while they're on the program. Students in each cohort come from all different academic backgrounds, fields, and degree programs, and diversity is really a strength of the program. So we also actively recruit students from groups who are underrepresented in study abroad, including students of color, students with disabilities, students from community colleges, and non-traditional students. The CLS program is a really great opportunity for students regardless of their level of experience with international travel. And each institute has a variety of support staff structures and programs to ensure a safe and successful summer for everyone. In addition to the opportunity to study abroad and take language classes on a fully funded program, there are a lot of benefits that come from participating in the CLS program. So students on CLS make substantial language gains in language proficiency over the course of one summer, and proficiency in a critical language really opens doors to further academic and employment opportunities in all fields. Studying abroad can also help you develop and hone skills that all employers are looking for, like problem solving, flexibility, adaptability, and all of these things will help you stand out to employers to give you an edge in an increasingly competitive and globalized job market. Because of the immersive nature of the CLS program, participants also have unique opportunities to build meaningful relationships in their host communities with friends and colleagues from the host country and peers in their CLS cohorts who come from all over the United States. Alumni of the program join a vibrant and engaged alumni community of U.S. Department of State International Exchange alumni and gain access to resources and events supported by the CLS program. And while CLS participants don't have a service requirement to the U.S. government after completion of the program, alumni do receive a certificate of non-competitive eligibility for federal employment. So the CLS application is available now. It's at clscholarship.org/apply. And in order to prepare a competitive application, we recommend starting early. And the deadline is only 15 days away. So it's approaching quickly on November 17th, 2020 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can only apply for one language, and keep in mind that you're applying for a language rather than a specific program site or country. Applicants are required to submit an unofficial script and one recommendation, and then 4 short essays and a statement of purpose form the core of the application. We want applications from students of all majors and levels of language learning, and encourage students of all disciplines to think about how critical languages can help in their careers. Successful applicants for the CLS program come from a wide range of backgrounds and are excited to represent the diversity of the United States abroad. The program places emphasis on students who are prepared for the rigorous academic program and the intensive nature of the program. And in your application, it's important to show that you can succeed on the CLS program, which includes addressing your ability to study intensively, your skills at adapting to a group program setting where you're not making all the decisions, and your cultural flexibility and maturity. You should also show that you're really motivated to pursue language study and that you'll continue your studies after you return to the United States. So this doesn't mean that your campus has to offer courses in the language that you choose, but you should have a plan for how you'll continue learning and using the language in the future. And then finally, you'll need to make a clear connection between the language you wish to study and your academic or professional career goals. As you work through the application, take time to think about how this language contributes to your future by doing some research on what people in your field are doing globally. Also, be sure to watch the application tips video that we prepared. That can be really helpful. It's available on our YouTube page. You can also find it at the link at clscholarship.org/apply. And that video will walk you through the prompt for each essay question and explain what evaluators are looking for to give you some general tips for making your application as strong as possible. Finally, definitely reach out to resources on your campus to help with your application. Faculty and instructors might have ideas for areas of international interest in your field that can be helpful. a writing center, fellowship or scholarship office, study abroad office, or honors program may be good places to get feedback on your essays as well, which we always recommend to have someone give you feedback on your essays. Again, the application is open now and available at clscholarship.org/apply. And your application must be submitted no later than 8 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, November 17th. Every year we have students who try to submit their applications at the very last minute and miss the deadline, so don't let that be you. In January, every applicant will be notified of whether they'll advance to the semifinal round of selection. And this notification is done by email, so make sure that you're using a valid email address in your application. And check your spam filters and make sure you can receive emails from cls@americancouncils.org. So those who advance to the semifinal round can expect to be notified in early March of whether they've been selected for the award or chosen to be an alternate. And students who are selected for the award will have about 2 weeks to either accept or decline the offer. So yeah, thanks again for joining us this evening. We'll go through, we'll have plenty of time to answer questions. And before we do that, I will, first I'll just say to email us at this email address here, cls@americancouncils.org. If you have any questions that come up later on, you can always call us as well. We're active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow there for updates if you'd like to, and ask our alumni ambassadors to chime in a little bit. So Ramisa and Sydney, would you mind sharing a little bit about kind of your experience on the program and any application tips that you have from your experience applying?
I can start. I had a really great summer in Jordan. I had never been there before. I had previously done 2 study abroads in Morocco. So I thought it was really cool that I got to go to a new country and learn a different dialect of Arabic. And I really loved my teachers at the school I was at. I thought they were like really superb quality. They were as good, if not better, than my Arabic teacher at the University of Washington. So I was like really satisfied with the quality of education that I received on program. And I really liked my host family. I thought that CLS did a really good job of placing me with them. I lived with a grandma and a grandpa, which is my preference for host family. I prefer to live with an older couple. And I had just had a really great summer with them. They were really sweet and they didn't speak any English. So I know Liz mentioned the language pledge and how you speak only your language. And for me, it was really easy to stick to the language pledge because English just wasn't an option in my host family situation. So I had a great summer and I learned a lot in Arabic and my language ability advanced really a lot. A tip I would have for applications would definitely be to have someone look at your essays. I personally am a really shy writer, and so it's really, really challenging for me to give my personal statement or my short answer essays to people and have them look over them because I find that very embarrassing. But I do think it definitely helps. And I did have someone do that and they gave me very helpful feedback and helped me cut out some superfluous sentences. And so I definitely recommend that even if you're shy.
So thank you, Sydney, for talking about your experiences. So for me, this was my first time really traveling outside of North America, besides going to Bangladesh to visit family sometimes. But it was my first time in Korea, and I had studied Korean for 2 years at my school, taking Korean classes before. So I got placed into the intermediate Korean course during CLS, and it was a very new experience to me because I had never really been in a situation where I couldn't really speak and understand the language fully. But I think that definitely came with a lot of rewarding aspects as well. Like not being able to, I feel like not being able to understand everything that was going on around me really kind of like encouraged me to like make more of an effort to actually like um, try to actively learn the language a lot more than I was doing during my classes at school. Um, I think uh, I think CLS did a really good job of like matching host families, but also they did a really great job of matching language partners. And so like you have a language partner who's kind of like who kind of volunteers to be your friend during a CLS basically, and they're a student at the university you're studying at. And it was really awkward between me and my language partner at first, but after that we became really close with each other. Like she was able to understand like everything that I wanted to say, even like without me like fully expressing it. And so like that way she was able to help me with my language a lot, and I just became like really good friends with her, and I still talk to her to this day. And I think like I just had a lot of really rewarding experiences during CLS, not only like with like language gains, but also just like building lasting relationships, like also with the people in my cohort as well. I think one tip that I want to give for applications regarding essays is to make sure that when talking about things in your essays, you're being as specific as possible, and also just like taking out um, some of your experiences and just talking about how you can apply those experiences that are unique to you to the CLS program, and just getting like really like specific about that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Liz. That was a great presentation with a lot of awesome information. And Sydney and Ramisa, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I found that really interesting as someone who obviously has not had a CLS experience. I do have a question for Sydney and Ramisa before we open it up to the students. What is one thing you think you put in your CLS application, short essays or long essay, that think made you stand out in your application? If you can remember back that far.
It's really hard to remember back, but I think because for me, it was really hard to try to imagine like career goals and where I wanted, how like specifically I wanted to use my language in my career. So I chose to take it like a different route, and I talked about my like academic goals with language. And so I ended up, I think I wrote about how I wanted to apply for a Fulbright and to like using Arabic for a Fulbright scholarship. And so I think that helped me like hone my essays to be more specific. And it also helped me like go around the career question, which I didn't really know how to answer because I like still am trying to figure out what I am interested in career wise.
I think for me, I guess like what I feel like what made at least part of my application stand out more is that like one aspect of like my short term goals was like super niche. I feel like um I um so like while Sydney was talking about her long term goals when she mentioned what she thought made her stand out, for the essay that talks about like your short term goals, I talked a little bit about how I want to use language to kind of to allow like underground musicians to get their music out to audiences who might not listen to their music because like it might be in another language, particularly Korean. And so like I talked about how like I have a radio show at my school where I play music from Asian artists with Western influence. So like because I kind of use it to tie my identity as like an Asian American together. And I play like some Korean music on that show as well. And then I also um, I don't do this anymore, but I used to be a staff writer for this underground music magazine based at my university, where we like interview musicians, underground musicians, to like just like do the same thing I was kind of talking about, just like allow their music to reach specific audiences. And I talked about how I wanted to use my Korean language skills to allow like cool like underground Korean musicians to like talk about their music and then maybe like translate that into English to get them into like English speaking audiences.
Wow, that's awesome. That is really, really interesting and niche and would stand out. That's great. All right. Do any of the students have any questions for Liz, Sydney, or Ramisa?
Am I allowed to ask like a specific application question, or is it supposed to be more general?
Sure, you can ask a specific one.
Okay, so when I was completing the application, as I came across like the different questions about like what have you done or what will you do before the program starts, to basically prepare for it, and then like have you participated in any of these like government programs or anything like that. If we're applying for a program that doesn't require a lot of previous experience, is it still looked down upon to not check off a lot of those things, or is that kind of normal, um, to leave a lot of those blank because we haven't participated in them?
That's actually a really good question.
So I can say that it neither, necessarily automatically advantages you or disadvantage give you a disadvantage or an advantage if you have participated in other programs. I think typically what reviewers are looking for is that if you have participated, for students who have participated in a lot of previous programs, they'll want to see in the student's application how they have what they have taken from those programs, how they really made the most of those programs, and how those apply to this longer trajectory of kind of their commitment to the language, their ideas about their career and academic goals. And if you haven't participated in those programs, you're not at a disadvantage. There are always a lot of students every year who maybe have never been abroad before, have never studied abroad, have never participated in a program like that, and it's definitely not it's not seen as any kind of prerequisite or requirement that you have.
Okay, I have a question.
All right, Sydney.
So once you knew that you had gotten like accepted into the program, what did you do to kind of prepare for going abroad, or just I guess practicing your language a little bit more? Like, what advice or tips would you have for that?
So for me, first I joined this group chat of people who were admitted into the cohort, and we were kind of able, like through that group chat, we were kind of able to like help each other prepare, like not only for like packing, but also like kind of like learning more about the city that we were going to be in as well. As for the language, so first, we actually had the OPI, the oral proficiency interview, like around I think like April. Um, and that was kind of like the preliminary OPI, the one that I think they use that to like see where your skills are before the program, and then you do another one like at the end of the program. And so like that was one thing I kind of had to like prepare for in a sense. Um, I also like am fortunate enough to be able to take Korean language classes at my school, and so like I kind of just did most of my preparation through that. But I also did try to, like review like new words that I wasn't like super familiar with that are commonly used to like just by looking them up.
Yeah, after I was accepted, I joined in like my email, my acceptance email, there was a link to join a Facebook group for the like Arabic program people. And so I joined that, and in that Facebook page, there was like helpful comments and people from past years that had like advice, and they're like, if I had a question, that would have been like a good place to ask it and ask previous program alumni or like people that were also in program with me. And CLS also had a bunch of material that helped prepare me to go. So they had us watch like webinar videos, but we also had an in-person orientation like a few days before we left that helped like answer any final questions. But they like helped us figure out what to pack, and we got a handbook, and so they really like prepared you well to go. As far as preparing language wise, I was still enrolled in Arabic class at my university, so I just continued that. Um, but I was able to, our Arabic textbook offered two dialects, Egyptian and like Jordanian. So once I knew I was going to Jordan, I started like actually paying attention to the vocab words in the Jordanian dialect. Because before it was really easy to just like skip over those because I knew I wasn't going to be tested on them. But I would say like paid closer attention to like the common words that I would need in Jordan that were in my textbook.
Do you have any tips for students going to places where the languages typically aren't taught in schools, like Indonesian or things like that, Azerbaijani, that are not typically taught at college campuses?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that alumni talk about a lot when they are, giving advice to students to prepare for the program. I think we worked with alumni this year to together kind of a series of sort of advice guides on different topics. And that comes up a lot. And so a lot of alumni talked about, particularly with those languages where they're not able to study it on their campus, or maybe they're a total beginner, um, was really, balancing wanting to prepare and look up some maybe key words and phrases that will be helpful to get around when you first get there. But also balancing that with not stressing about it too much. A lot of alumni talked about, you know, feeling like they were a little more anxious than they needed to be when there was a lot of support when they got there and in preparing for the program. And that, yes, it was a challenge, particularly for beginner students. The first week or so, there was maybe a lot of charades and things like that with their host families, but that they saw their language levels go up so dramatically that they were kind of like, you don't need to worry about it as much as you think you do. So obviously that's easier said than done, but yeah. The other thing I would mention in terms of preparation is that we have a set of alumni resource directories and the opportunity for individual mentoring with alumni that we offer to students, to finalists when they're preparing for the program. So in April or May, students receive a directory of alumni in their language who have volunteered to talk to participants who want to ask questions. And that can be during pre-departure or when they're on the program, that they can reach out to alumni to ask some of those, like, you know, what do you recommend I pack as a woman going to Jordan, or something like that, things that really anything under the sun.
That's awesome. I wasn't aware of that. So that's great. That's an awesome resource. All right. Any other questions for Liz, Sydney, or Ramisa?
I want to ask a question to Sydney and Ramisa. What was like each of your favorite, like specific experiences that you got to do while you were there?
I gotta like look back and like think about this for a second.
I can start. I really liked the excursions we went on. So the year I went, the students in Jordan could not travel outside of the city. That was against the program rules. So because of that, they planned 4 excursions for us when the other programs only had 1 or 2. Just so we could get like a whole view of the country and go to the typical tourist sites. And the excursions were probably one of my favorite parts, just because there was a lot of like really cool things to see in Jordan, like 1,000-year-old like sculptures in the rocks. And we went to the desert. We went to the Dead Sea, which is like a place I've always wanted to go. and we went to a Roman city that was, I learned it's the largest like complete Roman city outside of Rome. And we had like a 3-hour tour of it, and I just like didn't even know that existed. And so the excursions were really cool, and our tours were usually in Arabic, so it was like another way to learn like a different set of vocabulary. Um, and just like see more of the country. And our language partners also came with us on the excursions, which was really fun because like it was fun to hang out with them.
I think for me, I also really enjoyed the excursions, and like we also were able to have a few like free weekends where we were able to like either like stay within Gwangju and do whatever we wanted, or like even like travel outside of Gwangju to different cities. So like some of my friends from my cohort and I went to Seoul and Busan during those like free weekends. But I think my favorite part was probably just being able to like meet new people that like my language partner or like my host family introduced me to. So like my language partner was like friends with a lot of the other language partners during the program because they were all in the same major, and so I ended up spending a lot of time not only with like just like my own language partner but also other people's language partners as well, and then we all kind of got to really know each other better in a group. And I was also able to meet like some of my language partners friends who like weren't necessarily like CLS language partners, but they were also like students at the university that she studies at. And I think it was just like really cool being able to like interact with people who I probably wouldn't have been able to meet otherwise. And also like my host family was just one person. It was just like my host mom. And so like sometimes like she would take me to go meet like some of her other family members too. Like I remember this one really fun experience I had towards the end of the program. It was like a national holiday in Korea, and so people didn't have to go to work that day. And so my host mom took me to meet her sister and her sister's family, and like they had like a really young kid too. And so like it was a different experience for me because I spent the whole time during CLS just having like my host mom as my host family, which was like great. Like I love talking to her, but it was really cool to kind of also like feel like that like larger host family experience then too. And so I think like those kinds of memories are ones that I cherish the most.
That's great. Those are some great experiences. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to come chat with us. You provided a lot of great information for our students, and I hope all of them apply and get their applications in on time. So hopefully they'll do that. And I will for sure put some contact links and information at the end of this video. So thank you again so much for being part of it, and I greatly appreciate it, and hope you all have a great day.